They didn't necessarily lend it out to small businesses or home buyers. Instead, they bought stocks, bonds, and property. The wealthy, who own most financial assets, got much wealthier. Research by the Bank of England estimated that quantitative easing boosted stock and bond prices by about 20%. Sounds good. Until you realize that 40% of the stock market is owned by the wealthiest 5% of the population. The richest 5% of British households became about £128,000 wealthier on average. Meanwhile, families who owned little to no financial assets saw minimal benefit. This is one of the great ironies of modern economic policy. We create money to save the economy, but that money disproportionately benefits those who are already wealthy. The system works, but it exacerbates inequality. Now, let's talk about the cost of all this debt. Because debt isn't free. It accumulates interest. The United States paid interest of $1 trillion in fiscal year 2025. That's right, $1 trillion just in interest payments. That's more than the country spends on its entire military. It's the second largest item in the federal budget, behind only Social Security. And that number is rising fast. Interest payments nearly tripled over 3 years, from $497 billion in 2022 to $909 billion in 2024. By 2035, interest payments are projected to reach $1.8 trillion per year over the next decade. The United States government will spend $13.8 trillion just on interest. Not on schools, roads, healthcare, or defense. Just on interest. Think about what that means. Every pound, every dollar, every euro paid in interest is money that cannot be spent on anything else. It's not building infrastructure. It's not funding research. It's not helping the poor. It's just paying interest to bondholders. And here's the cruel mathematics. As debt grows, interest payments grow. As interest payments grow, deficits grow. As deficits grow, more borrowing is needed. As more borrowing happens, debt grows. It's a feedback loop. The Congressional Budget Office projects that by 2034, interest costs will consume roughly 4% of America's entire economic output. They'll account for 22% of all federal revenues, meaning more than $1 in 5 collected in taxes will go purely to interest payments. But America isn't alone in this predicament. Across the OECD, the club of wealthy nations, interest payments now average 3.3% of gross domestic product. That's more than these governments collectively spend on defense. More than 3.4 billion people worldwide live in countries where interest payments on government debt exceed what those governments spend on either education or healthcare. Think about that. There are countries where the government pays more to bondholders than it spends on teaching children or treating the sick. For developing nations, the situation is even more dire. Poor countries paid a record $96 billion to service their external debt in 2023. Their interest costs hit $34.6 billion, 4 times what they paid a decade ago. Some countries are paying 38% of their export earnings just on interest. That's money that could modernize their economies, build infrastructure.